Would you love to travel with your kids, but you're worried about flying somewhere with them, how they'll act, what they'll do, just taking care of them in a foreign place? Well, I have a few tips for you. So I'm a mom of 4 kids ranging from ages 9 to 19, but we have been traveling with them all over the US and internationally since they were babies. And I have a few tips to hopefully inspire you to do the same thing. My first rule of travel is no surprises. So if I'm gonna surprise my kids with a trip, that surprise happens well in advance. Like maybe under the Christmas tree, we talk about a trip that's coming up in the spring, or maybe a birthday, we surprise them for a gift or something quite a few weeks at minimum out. But if possible, the further out, the better. And it just allows us to start talking to the kids in advance. Trips don't make good last minute surprises. Tip number 2 is talk to your kids about expectations well in advance. So one of the things that I started to do, even when my kids were like 6 to 10 months old, is just start talking to them about the experience that we were going to have and the expectations that we were going to use on there. Now, obviously, my expectations are age appropriate. I know that if you have a 6-month-old baby or a 10-month-old baby, they're going to cry when they need something. They're going to cry when they're uncomfortable. They're going to cry when they're nervous or scared or the energy is weird. So, and sometimes they're going to cry when they're tired, which all happens when you're traveling. But I go ahead and talk to them about it, even at that age, but definitely by the time they're 18 months old, and of course, all the way up to my 19-year-old, they can listen and rationalize what you're saying and understand what you're saying. So I start using age-appropriate language with expectations. For my little bitties, when we would travel, I'd say, we're going to go on an airplane and it's going to be so exciting and we're going to be so quiet on the airplane and we have to sit still for a long time and it's so fun. You're going to get to look out the window and see the land far away and it's going to be so fun and it's so exciting. And aren't you excited? We're going to be on an airplane. And I just kind of repeat that every time it comes up, every time I think about it, maybe while we're eating or while I was feeding them a snack, whatever, we would talk about it. Obviously, children's books are always a helpful tool. So you can look in your library for books about airplanes or books about travel or books about the location that you're going to go to. Another thing that I like to talk to them about is what they're going to experience. So when we get on the plane, we're going to have to sit for a really long time and it's going to be so much fun, but we're going to sit really still for a long time. We can't kick the seat in front of us. We can't wiggle like we do at home. We'll wiggle when we get there, but on the plane, we have to sit very still. Now, obviously, I wouldn't talk like that to, even a 5-year-old, but for my older kids, it's the same thing. I just, talk to them in the way I talk to them normally, like, hey, we've got this flight. It's going to be really long. We probably want to think through some options for you to have on the plane to keep yourself entertained. Remember, we need to think through going to the restroom. You want to go to the restroom right before we board. And then again, and because we'll have to wait until the seatbelt signs come off and, this is kind of what I was thinking for that. Do you have suggestions? My big kids, like my 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, then we'll say that, I'll suggest to them, you may want to if you want to get on YouTube and look for some tips or from travel necessities, we can talk about it. In general, we don't want to pack a whole lot because we don't want to keep up with a lot. Also, traveling with 5 to 6 people, depending on the trip, it fills up a vehicle really fast. Or if we're using public transportation or Ubers or anything like that, we have to keep up with a lot. So we're going to pack pretty light. So I don't want to have a ton of stuff, but I don't mind having the tools we need to make it the best experience possible. And my kids have always done really well on flights. I also will talk to them a little bit about turbulence, if they're older and they've never flown before, I would encourage you to just say, hey, it's bumpy up there. It's just like going over a bumpy road. That's normal. The flights are made to handle it. It's nothing to be scared of. You want to talk to them about how their ears are going to feel weird, both going up and coming down. Reassure them that it doesn't mean anything is bad, it just happens. So you can tell them, a lot of times I would say, when we go up, it makes our ears feel weird, like we're in a tunnel. It's okay. We swallow, we chew gum, we laugh. It's not super scary. It just feels weird. And then a few other tips to talk to them about is to make sure, like, especially big kids, we typically travel with our big kids on very inexpensive flights, which means that we may not be sitting together. We may not have a lot of our luggage with us, that kind of thing. And so I just go ahead and kind of talk them through all of that. Any of the things that I know we're going to want on the flight, you make sure it fits under the seat, so that if for some reason our bags get gate checked to below the plane, they have it. Another tip is, when flying with little kids, is check to see if your car seat is TSA approved. If you plan on traveling a lot and you have little kids that are going to need an upgraded car seat soon, I would say go ahead and look for one that is TSA approved, a booster or car seat, because our kids already know that when they're in a car seat that they stay still, and it just helps it feel a little bit more normal for those little kids. Another tip for traveling with kids is to pack a variety of things that will work on a plane, but nothing with little pieces. So some of my favorite things are sticker books. All of the ages actually, but especially like ages 5 through about 12, find the books where you can get the stickers to make the faces funny. That usually entertains them for an hour or two. Of course, if you have kids that like to color, coloring books are a very good thing to do. Electronics work for a while. I know I have to be cautious with getting motion sick while I use electronics, so we also will download some audiobooks. I'll link a few of our favorites below for flights. They're just stories, nothing related to travel in particular, but we do have a few favorites that we have on our phones that kids and devices, iPods and such, that the kids can use. We typically make sure they have earbuds that are comfortable, both a wired earbud typically. The wireless earbuds for any of my kids, like 15 and under, they're just hard to keep up with. They're easy to drop on the plane and they roll under seats. And so the last thing I do try to check under the seats before we leave a plane, but leave a flight, but it is, you don't really want to be clobbing on the floor of an airplane, right? When I pack the under the seat bags, I actually put a lot of the kids' belongings that they're going to want in the plane in my bag. And then some of the things that I would like to have with us in case our bags get lost or whatever, but I might not need them during the flight, I will pack in their bags. And this allows me to kind of dole out the snacks and the entertainment as I see fit through the flight. I usually have a Ziploc bag of snacks and some type of packet of things to do. That would be like the sticker books, the coloring, the art supplies, things like that. Obviously, you don't want stuff that's going to make a mess, and you don't want things that have little pieces that you're going to care if they fall under a seat and get lost. So I would say no Legos, nothing like that. A few good things to pack are small magnet toys, coloring books, sticker books. Like a couple sticker books that have been popular for us are a jigsaw sticker book and the funny faces one for younger kids, as well as like activity books, creative journaling, and magnet toys. Crochet works really well with nail clippers to cut the yarn instead of scissors, as well as any embroidery or cross stitch, which are gaining in popularity, and origami style crafts or things like that as well. All work really well for kids and youth and even adults. anything to keep the mind engaged, especially on the longer flights. If the flight's only like an hour or two, you really don't need that. You need snacks. But for longer flights, you want to bring some extra things, snacks, sticker books, jigsaw sticker books, magnet toys, all of those types of things. Another tip is to have sippy cups empty when you board the plane, and then ask the flight attendant for apple juice, Sprite, ginger ale, something like that, something that your child would think was very good and is super special. And then you put it in the sippy cup, and you don't give it to them until the plane is taxiing down the runway, the wheels lift, and then you hand it to them. My kids always were like, oh, this is so good, and they would drink, and it helps their ears. We also, of course, pack the suckers and the gum, especially for older kids. They can understand to do that, but the ear pressure change is something that is difficult for little kids. Another tip I have for you is, generally speaking, kids 13 and under must be accompanied by adult. So we don't ever pay for assigned seats on a plane because our little kids have to be with an adult, and our bigger kids have been well traveled enough that it's okay if they sit separately. We have never had a problem with this. As a matter of fact, when we fly Frontier a lot, and we are oftentimes in the same row together, but we have always been we have 6 in our family, so when we fly with all 6, we have always had 2, 2, and 2, even when we've been split up. But the little kids have always been with a parent. So we don't pay extra for choosing our seats. Our big kids know how to handle themselves on a plane. If you are nervous or you're flying with older kids and they have not flown before, again, I just talked to them about expectations. It's okay to sit separate from us, how we're going to disembark. So if our kids are spread out over the flight, then typically we will wait for the last person in our family's row to be dismissed. And as they get to each of the seats up through the plane, then we'll leave with them. It just helps make sure we stay together and we get off together. But we will talk about that and what our plan is and where we're going to meet if we don't do that. We also talk to our kids about what to do if the person next to you makes them uncomfortable, what would make them uncomfortable, like if they are touching you or they are acting inappropriate or, watching something very inappropriate, just how to talk to the flight attendant and let them know. I also will tell the flight attendant, like, hey, my 16-year-old is sitting 20 rows behind me. If they need anything, I'm right here, please let me know. And then also, if for some reason they were very uncomfortable, myself or my husband could get up and switch seats with them mid-flight. That wouldn't be a problem for us. So anyway, those are a few tips. I hope they inspire you to take that trip. Happy travels. Are you considering traveling somewhere? Are you considering flying with your family? Would you love to take a trip with your family that involves a flight, but not sure where to start or overwhelmed with the idea of flying with your family? Well, I'm a mom of 4 kids, and my husband and I have traveled with them throughout the U.S. and internationally since they were babies. We are not full-time travelers. We have a home and jobs and school that requires us to be at our home base, but we do like for our kids to have these experiences and have learned a lot of different tips over the years traveling with our kids. I think our youngest flyer was about 5 weeks old when she traveled across country with us to visit relatives. I can't remember our youngest flyer's age, but 2 of my kids have flown around the age of 6 weeks old cross country, one from the Southeast all the way into LA to visit family, and one traveled from the Southeast into Alaska for our anniversary trip, both around 6 weeks old at the time, and they both did fantastic, and they are just used to traveling with us. So I have a few tips that make flying, few tips I've learned flying with my family. We have always had a great experience, and I hope I hope to inspire you to take these adventures with your kids, because these are lasting core memories. Lasting core memories. I also am a firm believer that traveling with our kids gives perspective beyond their limited worldview. I think it helps them to recognize how big the world is. It encourages them to have the confidence to do things that maybe are a little uncomfortable in their own lives, and it's just a very good skill for them to have. So happy travels.